Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba.
These are BP's personal rankings of the Star Wars movies that you may not agree with. I'm sure that most people, well, some people won't agree with these for sure. But they are my rankings. So, like them or not, I'm down here in the corner now. Okay. So, the very first, we're going to start off with number 9, and I'm not including in this ranking, I'm only including the 9 series movies. So, the original 3, the prequels, and then the 3 after. So this is just 1 through 9. So my 9th of these, my least favorite movie of the 9 traditional Star Wars movies is, I will show you here in just a second, Episode 1. Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, is my least favorite of all Star Wars movies, and I'll tell you why. It was a reimagining of things, and yes, it was neat to see how Anakin started out and his backstory. But Episode 1, for me, felt like they were trying too hard. I did not like some of the language. When I say language, I didn't like the introduction of the droid bots where they were saying Roger, Roger. I hated that. For some reason, that just felt like they were trying too hard for a language. And of course, the character of Jar Jar Binks, the character itself would be great, but the way he spoke, I felt, oh my gosh, what are they doing here? Misa not understand it. I don't understand. It was so freaking annoying. And to me, he is my absolute least favorite character. I understand maybe the comic aspect of it, bringing somebody in like that. I didn't like the way he spoke. I almost felt like it was a little bit prejudicial, racist, a little bit. I don't. Maybe I'm the only person thinking that way, but I didn't like it. I just felt like it was crazy. So, not a big fan of Jar Jar. So that's number 9 on my list. I did like some of the aspects of it, though. The action sequences were great. But yeah, I just I don't know. And what's true be told, Episode 1 introduced one of the greatest villains, albeit short-lived, but the whole Darth Maul character was incredible. And when he brought out that dual lightsaber, whoa, that's never been done before, so that was cool. Alas, it's my least favorite. I feel a little bit off about this one. My second to least favorite, my 8th one, is actually Attack of the Clones, number 2. And here's my biggest issue with this, is I did not like the teenager, whining, pining teenager that they made Anakin out to be here. He was constantly whiny the entire movie, it felt like. And I didn't like that at all. It just didn't fit for what he was about to become. I felt like his character was much better in Episode 3, in Revenge of the Sith. He was supposed to be older, I understand that, but I did not like that aspect of it. I will say this, though. There were some similarities in Episode 1 and Episode 2 that I did not. That's some carryover, obviously, from 1 to 2 that I did not like, and that's part of the reason why I didn't like it. But I will say this. Episode 2, overall, and I'm a big music person, as you know, Episode 2 had one of the best soundtracks overall. I loved the introduction for the first time, really, of an actual love theme, and it was beautiful. So you can never fault John Williams. John Williams is the one part I was just reading this last night, and I completely agree with it. John Williams is the one piece of the Star Wars universe that has never let us down. Every single time, he blows us away with his score. So, I think it had Bella face. Yeah. So, but yeah, he has never let us down. So, John Williams, I mean, amazing. So, but I love the soundtrack for this one, but it's still number 2. My number 7 of the Star Wars movies is actually this might be a little controversial, but Return of the Jedi, Episode 6. Wasn't a big fan of the Ewoks, even though I know that they needed to be there. I liked how it came together in the end, but looking back on it now with everything else, it just there's parts of it that I don't think storytelling wise it was just not that there felt like some downtime. There felt like some downtime on it, and it felt a little slow at times. There were some really cool sequences to it I loved, but it just felt a little slow at times. And so I really can't specify other than the Ewok thing. But hey, the Princess Leia bikini was pretty cool. But yeah, there's just a few pieces that I wasn't a great fan of. Okay. Moving on. Number 6 on my list. I'm telling on you, BP. I'm sorry. I'm reading some of your comments here. All right. So I'm going to move this over here so I can actually see some of your comments. All right. So moving on. Number 6 for me. I told you guys you weren't going to agree with all these. Number 6 for me, Last Jedi. Now, to me, there were a couple of big flaws that I didn't like. I loved some of the storytelling aspects of The Last Jedi. There was he brought in a little bit of in the directing of it. He brought in a little bit of comedy stuff. I liked the introduction of a few characters. That was fun, but there were parts of it that I was not a big fan of. I wish that Luke had been used differently. I wasn't a huge fan of that. I did not like the fake way that it was like nobody in the Star Wars universe had ever been seen that they were able to float around in space and still survive. Yet Leia was able to. I don't know. It just felt a little off. There were parts of it that just felt weird. So I don't know. It felt, watching it, looking back, especially looking back on it now, it felt like he was like Ryan was really trying to put his stamp on the Star Wars universe, not caring at all for what had gone before, and trying to do a whole lot of stuff that really didn't need to be done. Just tell the story. Let the story tell Star Wars. That's what's always happened. You don't need to, go crazy on it. Just take the story and let it grow. Let it be there. So that's my personal preference. So that was number 6 for me. Number 5, Force Awakens. Now we're getting into an area here where it's like there's a lot of really good stuff here. This is by no means, because I'm listing The Force Awakens as this far down, doesn't mean I don't like it. I actually really liked this movie. And some people didn't. I don't understand why. But some people didn't like it. And I mean, maybe it's just because they were hoping for something different. But this was the first one of a new generation, right? So we had new characters, and I wasn't a big fan at first of the whole Kylo Ren mask thing. It felt like it was very hard to understand him. But I love the interaction of he's a former stormtrooper and all this other stuff, and how that all came about. I thought that was such a cool. It's you know what, they brought back the good and evil. They brought back, a person fighting with their inner self struggling between right and wrong, and do I need to go here or here? So instantly that happened in that movie. So it was really fun. And how can you not like bringing freaking Harrison Ford back after all these years, when he and Chewie, when we saw it on the preview, on the trailer, but when you walk in and you see when they come onto the Millennium Falcon for the first time again after all those years, Chewie, we're home. I mean, come on. How awesome is that? And then the ending is the ending was so epic. The fact that he never spoke a line in the movie, Mark Hamill, all he does is turn around, take his hood off, turn around, and look. And that's it. That's the only time we see Luke in that movie. I mean, whoa. How crazy. So, anyway. Yeah, so that's crazy. Okay, we're getting down to it, guys. Here we go. Moving on. Some people are going to be crazy about this, but of the prequels, Episode 3, The Revenge of the Sith, was by far and away the better one. I loved being able to see how Darth Vader became Darth Vader. And you always wondered how much of Darth Vader is machine and how much of Darth Vader is person. Well, we got to find out after that amazing battle with Anakin, right? We got to see that he was foolish enough to try and think that on that one last-ditch effort, he flips over and he loses legs and arms. I mean, and that, you know, what's really funny is that it brings us back to that. Do you remember in the beginning, in the very first, in 4, 5, 6, when Luke has the conversation with Anakin, and he says, and Anakin and I'm sorry, when Luke has the conversation with Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan says to him, "He's more machine now than man." Now we know. Now we know why. Crazy. So, but I love that part of it. I wasn't a huge fan of some of the makeup job done on the Emperor, but who cares? That's just minute stuff. But hearing those first breaths from Vader when he got the mask on and all that, that was awesome. I see you guys are carrying on your conversation. I'm just going to keep going. I don't care. All right, we're getting into the top 3 now. My top 3. These won't surprise you, probably. All right. My third favorite was actually the very last one. And the reason why is because it brought everything back together. It had this way of, boom, we are closing out the saga. This is the end of the Skywalker Saga. I thought it was amazing that they were able to use Leia still in there, even after she passed away. That Carrie Fisher passed away long before that, and they were able to still use. And it didn't feel like it was like it was hard to do. It felt seamless the way that they were able to use the previous stock footage of her. So I loved that aspect of it. I liked the closure that we felt at the end of that. I like how they brought back the Emperor the way that they did. And I love the character development toward the end where you see somebody actually turn from the dark to the light and realize that, okay, he's not so bad after all, that what Rey always thought of him was true. He's not the machine, the man that he wanted to portray, and all this other really good stuff. I walked away from there thinking, that was the Star Wars saga. That was the Skywalker saga. So I was very happy to see the way that things came back down. Okay. Number 2 for me is A New Hope. And it's only beaten out by number 1 just because number 1 was so freaking epic for the day. It's crazy. So number 1 was life-changing. When A New Hope, or I'm sorry, episode 4, number 2 on my list. But when episode 4 came out, I mean, who starts out a series, number 1, at number 4? So the scrolling screen, I mean, we had so many firsts here. We had the scrolling screen giving us some dialogue at the beginning, telling us about the backstory of the movie. And the first thing that comes across is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And that set a tone for 30 something, for what, how many years now? 40 years of movie history. Wow, so cool. How can you not like that? It just started out that way. When those words come across the screen, every time you see that, a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. How awesome is that? And then the Star Wars hits. It's the reason why I'd always go first day, try to go for the first episode. I didn't want any spoilers, but if you've never sat in a Star Wars theater, first showing with a Star Wars crowd, with the applause that happens the minute those lights turn down, it's unlike anything else. That's my favorite thing about going to a Star Wars movie on the first day, is the crowd you're with. They're true Star Wars fans. They clap, they applaud. You feel the emotion of the characters through the audience. That's what's so cool about it. So, awesomeness. All right. But A New Hope taught us so much about, I mean, it changed space movies forever. So, it's very close to being the number one. But the number one to me has to be Empire Strikes Back. Empire was just ultimately amazing for what it was at the day, but it's carried on. The messages, it still holds true to this day. Yeah, some of the CGI stuff is a little bit off from today, but who wouldn't think that? But yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing, and I loved every aspect of Empire. And this Empire was the one that brought together, and it ended on such a dark tone, but it was so well done. So Empire's number one for me. There's my list. You can agree with it. I don't care. That's the BP list that you're probably going to disagree with, but it's mine, and I love it.